The earth is not flat and the Bible's mistranslated too. Holes at the poles, as above so below, it's all toroidal energy flows. Flat earth calls out the right symptoms but misdiagnoses the disease. And the pandemic was not an accident. It is our misunderstanding of light and gravity as a result of relativity. Einstein was the sucker that separated the wave from the sea. That ocean for millennia had many different names, and one I'll use is ether. We use terms like fields, as in electromagnetic fields, mathematically expressing energy exchange as particles, which form and interact with physical matter, while maintaining these fields are non-physical and made of nothing. All thanks to a 120-year-old paper that called the ether superfluous or unnecessary, but not non-existent, stating there is no requirement for an absolutely stationary space provided special properties nor a sign of vector velocity. Basically, there is no ocean, so there can't be any flow, effectively making space imaginary. It put physics in a box, restricting imagination with man-made rules like light speed as a maximum. Relativity never received a Nobel Prize because it lacked evidence and understanding. No direct evidence is really even presented for special relativity until 36 years after it's written, with muon decay. And muon decay is jamming a round peg through a relative rectangle. Although relativity would become popularly accepted 14 years after Einstein's 1905 miracle year, when the results of the Eddington experiment were published in public media as confirmation of Einstein's genius and general relativity, and therefore special relativity as well. The strength and results of the Eddington experiment nowhere near matched the magnitude of Einstein's claims on gravity, space, and time. Ironically, or maybe not, in the 1919 Einstein debut in the New York Times, it was an Englishman, Sir Oliver Lodge, that was quoted. Lodge had already written extensively about the interaction of ether and the spiritual realm, even saying that the disciples saw Christ's etheric body rise from his physical body during the ascension. That's why you've never heard of any of this. Relativity is used to erase the physical connection to the spiritual. Tesla told you a long time ago the ether makes up everything, showing scientifically we are all one. Consciousness comes from the field, and that in a grossly oversimplified manner, we are all part of God, and God is the whole thing, which we can't really comprehend. Voldemort made the universe relative just like they made language relative, aka context-based. Just like the signs in the grocery store, our language is intentionally intended to slow you down and make you buy more crap. They made ether a conspiracy theory and then created a quantum cover-up to confuse everyone. This was done on purpose to create a scientific atheism in the house of Einstein. And I know what religion he was. I also know he went to Catholic school. I also know Ashkenazi is just one of Voldemort's masks, the mask of scientific misdirection. Einstein never understood his fame, and for good reason. He himself said he lacked the aptitude to be Israel's president in 1952 when offered. Jeffrey Epstein ran the honeypot on the professors. He had his own office in Harvard and apparently hawking hot to it, luring them into a blackmail scheme, because of the implications. When you're content and comfortable, you relax and your castle's made of sand. You don't go chasing waterfalls. That's why the top is lured into comfort and the cattle constantly prodded into productivity. The mushroom is the fruiting body that emerges from the unseen mycelial underworld to spread its spores, but it is just the tip of the iceberg, the apple that falls, but not the tree itself. Think of the tree as the veil between life and death. In the Middle Ages, pious Catholic men and women would wear a heavy nightshirt called a camise kagao, or cow shirt, to permit a husband to impregnate his wife without having to endure the unnecessary physical contact with her, The camise kagul covered all sexual areas but left an opening for it, Pious couples were expected to use these at every lovemaking session and thus would never see each other naked. You have the sheet that is the tree, the veil between life and death, and then you have the mushroom. It emerges to the physical realm to release its seeds. See, Jesus Christ means mushroom covered in God's semen. The mushroom is man, Christ is consciousness. Jesus is the person who can translate these ideas. God's semen isn't a single concept, it's a full load of ideas that can reproduce and spread on their own. This isn't a subjective interpretation. This isn't Gnosticism. Call me Gnostic, although the term applies to followers of early Christians. It's emphasizing spiritualism over faith. Contemporarily, it applies as seeing the material world as flawed and created by a lesser deity, with the true God believing distant and good. But that's not what I believe. The material world's not flawed. Man is not objectively flawed. Man has the choice to do good or bad. Christmas elves are not mythological elves, and I don't think they're good. I bet you Amanita muscaria allows you to communicate with these little beings, opens a portal to another dimension is one way to say it. Another way to say it is that psychedelics literally increase your perceivable bandwidth of reality, allow you to figuratively hear a dog whistle. Your bandwidth is literally increased. And I think these little things have become parasitic to humanity. Goblins, gnomes, whatever you want to call them, different. I'm sure there's different subsets and whatever. But they're not good. They always want to take more than they give. Some little Rumpelstiltskin type of deal where they sucker you into something with the fine print, right? They tell you and Shrek, they tell you all these things. And I think these things have become parasitic. I think they've attached themselves to humanity. And I think we may have a little bit of an issue. Noels, Christmas songs. No El, no Elohim, no God. Christmas has become a godless tradition where we worship the morning star, the gift giver, the Santa Claus after you go to sleep. But it doesn't have to be like that. Like, I wouldn't be talking about this if these religions weren't being used to control and enslave people. And it sounds wacky, but what Christmas has become is just transactional. It's not thought and family time. And I mean, for some people it is, and there's still that core, but it's not the primary. That's the problem. The primary should be the worship of the family. And that starts with the worship of the children. And that starts with teaching your kids about the world and the truths and setting the example all year long, because they will follow you. They will copy you. But instead, we say what we want and then do what we want. And then use a magical sky deity to make sure they behave to a certain set of rules. This isn't to be negative. It's to encourage personal empowerment and self-responsibility of setting the example and being. And I'm not perfect. I'm way off, but I'm trying. You're using Jesus as a name, right? For a person that existed, whether God or not, we can debate later. A person that really existed and is supposed to come again. Okay, that wasn't their name. Why don't you use their name? Jesus is the translation from Greek of Iesus, which is the translation from Hebrew Aramaic of Yeshua or Yehoshua, which means Yahweh is salvation. So when you say Jesus is salvation, you're saying Yahweh is salvation is salvation. Yehoshua is being used before Jesus was born, and we have a modern equivalent, Joshua. Why don't we just say Joshua? Doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like for my prior service people, when you say cat card. Common access card. We know it's wrong and it doesn't make any sense, but it feels good when we say it. Not the Grinch's heart that was the wrong size. It was his thymus the whole time. And hopefully by next Christmas I'll finish this rhyme. But today I ran out of time. The thymus is a pinkish two-lobed organ that sits above your heart, beneath your breastbone, center line in your body. And I think it's a center of consciousness, a chakra. Interacts with the field that we consider empty space. And the thymus teaches your body friend from foe. It is the training center of your T cells, your adaptive immune system's response force. It teaches your cells how to find and take out cancer and viruses, the really bad guys. So what if listen to what's in here was a little bit more literal than we thought? Because the thymus starts out as a plum size, lime size when you're a kid, and it shrinks over time, becomes a little fatty nugget when you're an adult. It actually gets smaller. What if that's from us literally not listening to it and not being able to determine friend from foe? Maybe the Grinch had a good point to fear the Who's and their hoorie. They say hoorie in the movie, by the way, literally in the Jim Carrey one. The mayor says hoorie at one point. Anyway, what if he was right and they tricked him to look at the wrong side and he should have been listening to his gut, but a little bit further north? I don't know. Fun thought. What do you think? Just because Christmas is a death celebration, that end of year ritual that literally means the anointed one is over or is dismissed, where you trick your children into behaving all year long by selectively invoking a magical sky deity that has a beard and lives way up north and watches you all the time, where you have to wait patiently all year long and follow the made-up rules until you go to sleep. And then when you wake up, there'll be presents. Can't have them before you go to sleep. Doesn't mean throw it all out. Christmas is great. The kids getting excited is awesome. I love it. I'm all about it. Like, I'm not saying we get rid of traditions. have the food, play the songs, like have a good time. It means the rules are made up, but rules are fun. That doesn't mean throw the rules out. Rules are fun. It just means roll with it sometimes. When your kid opens a present a week early and you get all upset, you go, well, I guess we got a new tradition. You know, on the 18th, you get to open a present every year. Whatever. Just have a good time and roll with it. Just because I say the Bible's wrong and Jesus is made up doesn't mean God's not real. In fact, quite the opposite. These things were kind of made to lead us away, to build the systems for us to be able to comprehend and take over. We would never build the tools we need to save the earth if we didn't risk destroying it first. But we're coming to an inflection point. We're coming to an inflection point very quickly. I would rather not be yelling about religion, but the world is being pushed into war fueled by religion. There has been destruction of cultures over and over and over again by religion. Again, that doesn't mean God's not real. In fact, the underlying spirituality that just makes sense to everybody is really what's true. And I found this through the physics, not through the religion. I was studying Einstein because I wanted to understand the origins of the universe. 6,000 years didn't make any sense, so I didn't bother going down that rabbit hole. I was largely agnostic, atheist for most of my life. And then I'm studying the physics and I go, wait a minute, the same problem we have here is the same problem we have everywhere. It's broken feedback loops. It's a broken peer review system, a captured peer review system, and it's been captured by the same people that have captured religion and captured language and captured all of it. It's the Ashkenazis. Like, they're one of the three, if you believe it all in the Bible, they're one of the three that destroyed the Tower of Babylon, which, again, according to the Bible, humanity was speaking one language and was so united we were building a tower to try to preserve that unity, and God called us too egotistical and had to tear it down. And then you look today and we have rockets in space and skyscrapers, and like, that's fine. We have no problems with that. But having a unified language, that was a big deal. So Ashkenaz had to, I know I can't lay out every single connection or be able to put it in a convincing way, but I mean, ether was prematurely thrown out, okay? A physical medium to light, something that fills the empty space, the upside down, the in-between, prana, chi, life force, orgone, different layers. Probably it's the majority of the universe. Dark matter and dark energy were created to kind of cover this stuff up and make the math work, but the logic doesn't. So we have all this extra superfluous information that we argue about that doesn't really touch on the core. And again, it's, you plug it back into physical medium to light that's flowing, make all new models. You gotta, but the world, that's the thing. I don't want to poke at religion, but in order for us to be able to agree on solutions, we've got to go through the root cause analysis. And this is just, I know I seem like a whack job, but I don't know. God parted us from the sea so we could each experience you and me. He, it, they, we, whatever erased our memory as we rode the river Lethe. He cut us off and has been keeper of the Akasha for us to rediscover alongside one another. God made man with unique imagination, a real game dad, because playing on God mode is on God, on creative creation. You hear purpose subtracted, but I mean meaning multiplied. We get to decide, but you got to use what's inside. As a gift, he gave us sentience and self-awareness, and as a sentence of repentance, he wiped our hard drives, but left us maternal breadcrumbs to find. Yet instead of fermenting the yeast of wisdom and breaking the bread of knowledge, we've been digesting droppings. If it's slimy like shit, smells like shit, tastes like shit, and makes you feel like shit, stop behaving like an NPC and calling it candy. We can be one while still being many. And yes, I do speak for thee, for I was foretold it's up to you and me. You're not going to like this one. The second coming is when society realizes, hey, Zeus, waiting for a magical sky god, is actually he's us. And before it was he, it was I. I is us. The problem started, I mean, the farthest one back that I know of is ancient Egypt. The worship of the sun. And the reduction of Ra from being everything. And the totality, the reduction of God from a highest level of consciousness to a single deity, a single being within that. Well, that's the problem. And why did that start? Well, probably to combat the matriarchy, really. Naturally, men are beta bitches. It is what it is. We desire servitude. The divine masculine is completely devoted in service to the divine feminine, but it's not a one-way thing. It's a partnership. The divine feminine is completely devoted to supporting the divine masculine. It's like the ladies pick the destination, and then the men decide how to get there. And the ladies fall in line and get behind their man and trust their decisions. We got to be at the mother-in-law's tomorrow at 4. Okay, great. Don't tell me I made the wrong turn or whatever. You get what I mean? Like, I'm just making examples here. But that's why Jesus is sat at the right-hand side of the Father. It's the feminine. The man has a desire to worship the feminine. Lucifer, the left, represents the self, the ego, service and self, good and bad, whatever. It's all because the reality is a balance between the two. The reality is good and bad don't exist independently. They are relative measures. And you go, oh, Gnostic, and that's not that old. And yeah, it is. Whatever. You can say whatever you want. This is just a natural order of things. So you could say Gnostic isn't that. Whatever. You get the point. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope you have a good night. And these guys absolutely knew about brain structures. Look at the Sistine Chapel. Look at the Eye of Horus. Look at all these like they knew about brain structures long ago, and they left us these messages encoded. So I don't know. Society has a greedy cancer that's killing all of us. And I came up with this analogy between the functions of the human body and the functions of society as a way to illustrate how this corruption that is cancer that's killing us is our own unconstrained growth that we've been tricked into not recognizing. And the processes by which we've been tricked and how to communicate that in different language. I was just trying to make an illustration of it. And the numbers and the flows, everything lined up so good, it's kind of crazy. So I'm going to make a couple different videos trying to communicate the concept with different terms because I think they're not confusing. They've been conflated through ambiguous language. And take a tomato. Tomato's a fruit and a vegetable. Is it a fruit or vegetable? Yes. Like both? Okay. I guess it depends on the context. And that's kind of dumb to have context-dependent language. So I'm going to frame it in a bunch of different contexts. But while I do that, I'm going to kind of just jump to the end because it felt important, which is that the monocytes are the Jews, okay? The monocytes, they turn into macrophages and dendritic cells. They transform when they enter cellular tissue, and then they create messages for and communicate them to the T cells, and the T cells really are the ones who run shit. And T cells, here's the short of the long. There has to be, if we follow a societal flow, there has to be a subset of helper cells that specifically see cancer. And somehow the T-regs, the elites, have tricked, probably in the training ground that is the thymus, they've tricked the cytotoxic special forces into taking out and targeting on very rare and specific circumstances that one type of helper cell that would alert the rest of the team, and that there could be something in that interaction. And so the short of the long is, hey, the Jews are, it's more, okay? It's how everybody else is, it's how our good guys are getting trained. It's the materials they're provided. If so, fact so, listen to the right so. It's not the government, the Illuminati, the shadow people. They don't have to silence you. Voldemort's propaganda is good enough that your neighbor does it for them. And it's not woe is me, it's woe is everybody else. I'm lucky enough to have been born into a thick skull with a loud voice, so I'm trying to make room for those who quietly keep good ideas contained, choosing comfort over conflict, and I don't blame you, but compassionate one-on-one conversation is the only alarm clock to the unreasonable, and right now there's not enough voices in the day. At the individual level, aggressive reactions to certain lines of inquiry seem to be a sort of subconscious defense mechanism, like a scared pussy showing its claws. And that fear is, if I'm wrong about this, and I was led to believe that, and I was tricked about that, my construct of reality dissolves. I won't be able to trust anyone, even myself, but you can learn. So I'm gonna rant, because this has always been class warfare. Our troops are spiritually divided, and I don't know how to slap the unity spell. We are all clearly suffering a democratic delusion while living under a fascist global regime led by occultist perverts. And when do you think that started? I often reverence Columbus, not to prove anything, but to cast the shadow of historical doubt at least that far. So let's work our way back. The alleged murder of a prominent young, well-spoken citizen journalist was just live-streamed to the world. And our FBI, the top leaders in United States law enforcement, are clearly involved in an international cover-up. Our government has for years sat on a list of pedophiles from a man who not only had his own office in Harvard, but also direct ties to one of the world's most influential scientific publishers. It's not settling in for many of you how much bullcrap we've put into our bodies and minds. The United States government has murdered tens of thousands, if not millions, of its own citizens. 9/11 was an inside job. There are hundreds of private engineers who have shown the story doesn't fit the evidence. It's not just disagreement. If the evidence doesn't build to the expert conclusion, who made it the conclusion in the first place? The FBI supplied the explosives to the bombers in the 1993 World Trade Center attack. And by the way, why do you think you have the Israeli art student footage now? Where has it been for 20 years? Israel has been a planned scapegoat for a long time. These leaks, everyone you're showering in, well, at least they are sanitary and you do like the taste. There's Watergate. We had no business in Vietnam. The CIA killed Kennedy. Manson was an informant. MK Ultra drug citizens. Our government and businesses worked hand in hand with the Nazis all through World War II. Smedley Butler told us all about the profiteering and racketeering of World War I. You already know about the Federal Reserve. Rockefellers birthed our education system. Westward expansion and native slaughter were savage AF. Controversy surrounds Lincoln's assassination. I've seen evidence to suggest color photography may have actually been available at the time. How can anybody call anybody else dumb right now? I'm not mad. I'm sad. My heart's broken. I don't think anyone's dumb. I drank all the flavors of Kool-Aid, but Johnny, they done poisoned the well. Israel has always been intended to be the sacrificial scapegoat to start the show that ends with apocalyptic Christian Muslim meltdown. Voldemort, the Dementors, and the Ministry of Magic will pop back up from their holes with a new version of the story and do it all over again. Arguably, the most important word in all of human history has been mistranslated millions of times to billions of people, and I'm not the first one to tell you this. But it seems most would rather lay down and sleep in darkness than risk standing up in the light of truth. Christ does mean consciousness, and Jesus teaches translations. The world went dark when Jesus was crucified because in that moment we lost the ability to translate what Christ meant. Scriptures contain information intentionally layered to reach different intelligence levels, primarily post-apocalyptic survival manuals intended to walk you up the chain of comprehension. The mistake is thinking we're smarter today than the OG original authors. A mushroom covered in God's semen is what John Marco Allegro said Jesus Christ meant, and he was right, but he didn't take it far enough. Allegro proposed that the story of Christ and his disciples was actually a metaphor for mushrooms. What he didn't see is that the mushrooms are metaphors too. Another level to the layers. The visible mushroom is just the fruiting body that reaches up to the light. It is the apple that falls from the tree. It is not the tree itself. The largest organism in the world is a fungus in Oregon, and the organism lives underworld. This particular organism is older than Jesus and estimated between 2,400 and almost 9,000 years old. The mushroom represents everything visible, tangible, everything you can see, touch, taste, and smell. God's semen is the unconscious. The universe is feminine, the material, the building blocks. Your mitochondrial DNA is all from your mother. Fellas, your mitochondrial DNA will not be passed on. It dies with you. If the woman already contains all of the matter and information required, what role does the male play? The semen provides the sperm, the soul, the singularity, a new consciousness. So Christ means a metaphorical mushroom with its own soul. Jesus is a teacher of these principles, and when he takes the bread to give it to his disciples, he's taking knowledge and spreading it to the people. Act 1, find a peaceful pasture, contractually cage the bull, flick its nuts with false flags and financial fuckery till it's fuming. Phase 2, drop the gate and watch Chris the cow consistently chase the clown. Once the brave bull begins to calm from the blind rage, you know it's time for the third act. And then out comes the sword from the east, waving the Tertio de Muleta, the red cloth of blood to entice the dichromatic animal determined to depose deception in the name of divine justice. While the world is wooing, waiting, watching, even wagering on the winner of the skirmish, the clowns have slunked off backstage, unscathed, and made their way to your farm. Stumbling home, strewn in slop, something seems amiss. So you count the flock, but tick goes tock. Look at the clock. A single sheep you let slip. Suckered at enough shows, and soon you put up a security system. Oh wow, it's clearly the clown, so off into town you skip. To the sheriff, you tell the tale of the two-time tricksters. The seemingly sympathetic but somewhat slimy sheriff hears you all the way out the door. I can't take any more. Can't you see? I guess a martyr I'll be. Bang, bang. That wasn't the deputy that went thud on the floor. To the gallows I'll glee. Yes, it was me. I stood up for what I believe. With rope all around, what could that be? A quick flick to my piece, suddenly red's all I see. A countdown from 3, a clown away flees. What is destined for me? As they opened the door, to the crowd did I roar, but blood they want more. Unfortunately, it was clear as could be. Now it was my turn to be the whore who gets stabbed in round 4. Crash at o'clock already? Charlie Kirk's assassination. Dirty. Katrina response. 9/11. Tupac's murder. Dirty. MK Ultra. JFK assassination. Vietnam. Dirty. Nuclear weapons. Nazi scientists. Prescott Bush. Dirty. Titanic. Federal Reserve. General Education Board. Dirty. Civil War. American expansion. Holy Roman Empire of the German nation. Dirty. Global colonization. Spartan apprenticeship. Egyptian construction. Dirty. But your religious text that was printed and handed to you by those same people, after being translated through multiple languages, handed down through generations as oral traditions, those words, exactly how they're written today, just spot on. Then the story that unites almost 4 billion people is a story of ritualistic sacrifice. Who cares what Abraham's intentions were? Who cares how old his only son was when Abraham set off to kill him and burn his remains? Who cares if an angel allegedly stopped him right before he slits his child's throat? He still unnecessarily kills an innocent animal so his offspring can conquer the world? People, the top of everything is dirty. I really don't want to tell you the things I found. You genuinely can't handle the truth, so I need you to at least start paying attention who you're listening to, what information they're providing. I promise you, corruption is like mushroom hunting. Once you see one, you see them everywhere. And you quickly realize the trail is littered with all different kinds. Most are just cool to look at. Some are delicious, others will kill you. But there's something to be learned from all of them.